She handed over her ID and he dropped it on the floor like trash. By the time he found out who she really was, it was too late. You ever walk into a place where you feel like you don't belong the second the door closes behind you? Not because you're out of place, not because you're loud or doing too much, but because they've already decided who you are before you even speak. That was the exact air inside the Haven Bank branch on North Chestnut Street in Springfield, Missouri. The kind of place with coffee-stained beige carpet, dying FCUs in the corner, and a clock on the wall that ticks louder than the actual customers. There was no music playing, just silence and suspicion. Danielle Rivers stepped through the automatic doors like she had a purpose because she did. Sharp navy blue suit, pressed shirt, smooth dark skin glowing under the cheap fluorescent lights. Her heels clicked softly against the floor, and for a second the room paused. She caught the eye of the security guard, gave him a polite nod. He looked up from his phone, nodded back, hesitant. Danielle didn't flinch. She was used to this. 43, CEO of Rivers Global Strategies, private jets, government contracts, hard-fought wins in boardrooms that never expected someone like her to sit at the head of the table. Today wasn't about winning or approving anything. Today was just about verifying a wire transfer. A final step in a 3-year negotiation with a German firm for a $3 billion partnership. She'd flown in from Dallas that morning to stop by this local branch, not by chance, but by design. This bank had been flagged as one of the potential anchor points for her expansion plan. A quiet test, a simple task. Danielle approached the counter, glanced briefly at the name tag of the teller. Caleb Warner, 20-some, pale, thin, jaw clenched like it was his first job, and he already hated it. Danielle smiled. Hi, I'm here to verify an international transfer. My team sent the paperwork ahead, but they said I needed to show ID in person. Caleb barely looked at her. Name, Danielle Rivers. He typed something into the computer with one hand, the other spinning a pen between his fingers. ID. She handed it over without hesitation. Status issued with the gold Real ID star in the corner, clean, current, her picture staring back like she had something to prove. Caleb took it, paused, looked up at her, looked down again, then back up. You the account holder? Yes, CEO, yes. Something shifted behind his eyes. Disbelief, disrespect. He didn't say, but what he did next said it all. With the same hand holding the ID, he let it drop. Not a slip, not an accident, a flick of the wrist. Danielle's ID hit the tile floor. She blinked slowly, bent down, picked it up with 2 fingers, stood straight, calm, composed. Caleb leaned back in his chair, arms folded like he'd just proved a point no one asked him to make. You people are always in a rush for something, he muttered, eyes on the screen now. For half a second, it was dead silent between them. No movement, no apology, no acknowledgement, just static. Danielle's voice didn't crack, didn't rise. Just one sentence. Thank you for your time. She turned, heels clicking louder this time, and walked straight out of the bank. The door hissed shut behind her. But the story didn't end there. It hadn't even started. Danielle sat behind the wheel of her rental car, a dark gray Lincoln Continental parked right under a crooked security camera. The leather was warm from the afternoon sun, but she didn't turn on the AC. She just sat there, one hand still holding her ID, the other resting on her thigh, fingers curling into her pantsuit fabric like she needed something to anchor her. This wasn't new. She'd seen it in elevators, at conferences, even in hotel lobbies where she was the keynote speaker. That twitch in someone's expression when they realize you don't match the story they've written in their head. But something about today, it wasn't the words. It wasn't even the disrespect. It was how easy it had been for him. How natural. Danielle tapped her ID gently against the steering wheel. This wasn't just about her, that $3 billion deal. It was her team, her investors, her name. But most importantly, it was a test. The branch in Springfield was one of 3 being considered for partnership under Rivers Global's new U.S. expansion initiative. Small towns, working-class cities, places often left behind. This was supposed to be a step forward, a win for everyone. Instead, it became a moment that told her something she hadn't wanted to admit. Some people weren't ready to move forward with her. Her phone buzzed in the passenger seat. A text from her COO, Nina Vaughn. Just got word Frankfurt finalized their side. Wire confirmation needed by 3 p.m. CST. All green on our end. Danielle didn't respond. She stared at the screen, lips pressed tight. Then quietly, she powered the phone off. It was 2:12 p.m. She started the car, shifted into drive. Back inside the bank, Caleb was finishing his shift. No manager asked questions. No one pulled high. Emma sighed. He laughed at something on his phone, popped a piece of gum, moved on. Danielle stopped at a light. Across the street, a group of teenagers were gathered outside a Family Dollar, passing around a bag of hot Cheetos, laughing like the world wasn't heavy. She thought about her first job, a waitress at a Waffle House in Monroe, Louisiana. She'd been 17, men twice her age calling her baby girl and touching her hand when they paid in cash. She didn't quit. She worked harder, saved everything. Then came Southern. 2 degrees, 1 unpaid internship, then D.C., where her first boss called her sweetheart every Monday until she got him fired. Everything she had, she earned twice over. So no, Caleb Warner wasn't new. He was the system's reflection. Another gatekeeper with a cheap name tag and a full sense of himself. But that didn't make the sting any less real. Danielle gripped the steering wheel. She thought about that moment, how he looked her in the eye, then threw her identity on the floor like trash. Not a mistake, a message. And in that moment, Danielle made a decision. Not from rage, not even pain, but clarity. She reached into her purse, pulled out her secondary phone, the one only her board had the number for. She typed out one line. "Pull the plug. I'll explain tonight." Sent. The light turned green, but she wasn't driving back to the hotel just yet. Something deeper was stirring. Something that had been quiet too long. The sun dipped lower over Springfield's west side as Danielle merged onto Highway 65. She didn't turn on the radio. No calls, no music, just the hum of the engine and the soft creak of leather as she leaned back, letting the road stretch ahead of her. But her mind wasn't quiet. She kept replaying it. The thud of her ID hitting the floor. The shift in Caleb's jaw. How he said "you people" like it was just another Tuesday. Like it was normal. Like he had the right. But what hit hardest was how calmly she reacted. She didn't yell, didn't raise her voice, because if she had, what would have happened? Police called story twisted. Angry black woman. Aggressive. Combative. Uncooperative. They had 1,000,000 words for her silence. 1,000,000 more for her strength. Danielle let out a quiet laugh, bitter. The kind you let slip when the only other option is crying, and she was tired of that. She passed an old billboard for a local barbecue place, and her chest tightened unexpectedly. It reminded her of her father. He used to say, "Don't let him pull you down to the dirt, Danny. You don't plant anything there." He died when she was 25, heart failure. He never got to see her sign her first federal contract, but she remembered him pacing their small kitchen in Baton Rouge, explaining how dignity isn't just how you walk, it's how you respond when someone tries to take it from you. She was living that lesson now, but still it hurt. And what made it worse, the silence that would follow, because she already knew how this would go if she said something. A statement from the bank, an internal investigation, maybe even a vague apology to anyone affected. And Caleb, transferred, maybe promoted or just forgotten, and her, they'd call her controversial, a distraction, or worse, say she was making it up. She'd been here before, just never this close to the edge. She reached over and rolled down the window, letting the wind hit her face. She needed the cold air. Needed to feel something sharp, something real. Because that's what this was now, real. Not just about a wire transfer, not just about a rude bank teller. This was about all the quiet slights that build up like dust in a room no one cleans until someone chokes. Danielle had built everything she had brick by brick with scars on her hands and silence in her throat. Today broke something, and she wasn't going to patch it up this time. As the road curved toward the Marriott on Sunshine Street, her hotel for the night, she slowed down. Then she turned off into a side lot, a gas station, empty, just a single overhead light flickering near pump 3. She sat there a minute, reached for her phone, turned it back on. 37 unread texts, 9 missed calls. Nah, again, her CFO legal counsel Frankfurt. Her finger hovered over the screen. She took a breath and hit one contact. Nina Vaugh. The phone rang once. Oh, twice. Oh, click. Danny, finally. What happened? Are you okay? Danielle didn't answer at first. I'm fine, she said softly. I'll explain everything at tonight's call, but Nina. Yeah, the deal's dead. A pause. What? Danielle, no. Frankfurt's already, I know. Silence again. Danielle looked out at the dark street ahead of her. Sometimes, she said, the cost of dignity is more than the value of any deal, but it's still worth it. Na didn't argue. That told Danielle everything, but the hardest conversations were still ahead, and they wouldn't all be this quiet. 8 but sharp Central Time. Danielle sat at the glass desk in her hotel suite, laptop open, camera off for now. Behind her, the Springfield skyline blinked in tired amber and halogen, unaware it was about to lose a billion-dollar opportunity. She could already hear voices through her AirPods. Nah, Ellis from legal, Tariq from strategy, and 3 board members she barely saw outside quarterly reviews, all waiting. She turned on her camera. Her face appeared on their screens, sharp, calm, unreadable. Evening, everyone, she said. Na spoke first. Danny, you all right? I'm fine, Ellis jumped in. We saw the email. I need clarification before we move forward. Are you officially terminating the Frankfurt deal? Yes, Danielle said. Simple, firm silence. Tariq leaned in from his office in Miami. That's 3 years of work. You realize what's on the line? I do. And you're walking? I am. The board chair, a man named Clifford Ames, old money, East Coast ties, polished mustache and tennis trophies, unmuted slowly. Forgive me, Danielle, but that's not a decision you can make without full board approval. Danielle smiled without warmth. I didn't sign anything yet, so I'm not breaking a deal. I'm preventing one. Na shifted uncomfortably. Danielle, maybe tell them what happened at the bank. Danielle leaned forward, elbows on the desk. Her voice didn't shake. Her tone was almost casual. I visited the Springfield Haven Bank branch this afternoon, not for ceremony, just to verify a routine wire in person. That branch was being evaluated for a strategic partnership under our U.S. reinvestment pilot. Eyes widened across the screen. Clifford, you went in person? Yes. I wanted to see how they'd treat someone they didn't recognize, and Danielle didn't blink. The teller asked for ID. I handed it to him. He looked at me, looked down, then dropped it on the floor deliberately, said, and I quote, "Yo, you people are always in a rush for something." Then he leaned back like nothing happened. The board was quiet, not shocked, but quiet. T muttered, "Christ." Ellis exhaled hard. "We can file a civil complaint. Their branch policies?" "No," Danielle cut in. "No press, no complaint, no headlines. But we could use this," Clifford said. "This moment, this incident. It could give us leverage, push them to commit to long-term equity terms." She looked him dead in the eye. "You think I want to build a partnership by twisting arms after they spit in my face?" Na rubbed her temples. "So you're saying the entire Frankfurt partnership hinges on a single teller in Missouri?" "No," Danielle replied. "It hinges on principle. This deal was about trust, about choosing institutions that serve all people. That moment showed me exactly how they serve. I won't build legacy on that." Clifford sighed, straightening his cufflinks. "You're asking us to leave billions on the table because one employee had poor judgment." "No," she said calmly. "I'm asking you to recognize that disrespect isn't bad judgment. It's company culture in disguise." There was a long pause. Then Na, sharp, loyal, tired, spoke up. "Danielle's not wrong." All eyes turned to her. "You think it's just one teller? You think this is a fluke? I've worked in banks. I've had to leave my degrees in my car just to avoid getting questioned in the lobby. Danielle walked into that branch as a test, and they failed." Ellis nodded slowly. "Legally, we're clean if we walk. The board can vote to reposition the capital through our Southeast infrastructure bucket." Clifford still looked unconvinced. "But what do we tell Frankfurt?" Danielle looked right into the camera. "Nothing. We say the deal is no longer aligned with our objectives. No further comment, no drama, just silence." "But that's billions," he said again. She folded her hands. And dignity, she said, is worth more than every zero in that wire. No one responded. Finally, Clifford leaned back. You're the founder. Your call. Danielle nodded. One click, call ended. She stared at her reflection in the black laptop screen. But outside that boardroom, the ripples were only beginning, and some people weren't ready for what came next. The next morning, the Haven Bank branch on North Chestnut opened at 9 a.m. sharp. The first customer walked in at 9:02. By 9:05, the branch manager, Gwen Lee, had 3 voicemails blinking on her phone, all from corporate. Something was off. She poured herself a stale cup of coffee, sat down, and pressed play on the first message. Hey Gwen, this is Trevor from Regional. Just giving you a heads up. We had a big client evaluation go sideways yesterday. You may be hearing from corporate. Call me back ASAP. Gwen frowned. Clicked the next one. Gwen, it's Trevor again. I just found out who the client was. Rivers Global Strategies. Yeah, that Rivers. We need to talk. Her hand froze mid-sip. By 9:08, she was scrolling through emails with one eye and waving over a teller with the other. Where's Caleb? She asked. The teller shrugged. Late again, probably stopped for breakfast. At 9:14, he strolled in. Same slouch, same hoodie under his jacket. Didn't say a word as he clocked in. Caleb, Gwen said sharply. My office now. He groaned, dragging his feet like a teenager being called to the principal's office. Once inside, Gwen didn't waste time. Did you have an interaction with a woman named Danielle Rivers yesterday? Caleb scratched his neck. Maybe black lady business suit. Gwen's stomach dropped. Yes. What happened? He blinked, shrugged. She gave me her ID. I verified it. Did you drop it on the floor? A pause. She dropped it, I think. You think? Caleb smirked. Look, I didn't mean nothing. She was acting all stiff. I didn't say anything bad. You didn't say anything bad? Gwen repeated slowly. I said something about being in a rush, but not like in a racist way or anything. I didn't even know who she was. Gwen leaned back in her chair, suddenly exhausted. She's the CEO of a firm we were in talks with, one of the largest private infrastructure firms in the country. Okay. She came here on purpose to test us, Caleb scoffed. Well, that's dumb. No, Caleb, Gwen snapped. What's dumb is you throwing away a multi-billion-dollar deal because you couldn't treat a customer with basic respect. He shifted in his chair, defensive now. So now I'm losing my job over this. I didn't say that yet, but you're thinking it. I'm thinking we're all about to feel the weight of your attitude problem. She stood, walked to the door, then turned. You better hope corporate sees this as a teachable moment, not a public one. Outside, she could already hear her assistant saying something about pre-solding lines in client relations. Meanwhile, back in Dallas, Na was fielding quiet calls from journalists who sensed something happened, but couldn't quite pin it down. And Danielle, she was already on a flight back. Middle seat empty on both sides, window shut, eyes closed. Not because she was tired, but because there was nothing left to explain. The message had been sent silently, powerfully, and the people who needed to understand, they were starting to feel it. By Friday afternoon, Haven Bank's regional division had launched a diversity and inclusion initiative, complete with press graphics and a new training program no one asked for. Caleb suspended, not fired, just set aside. Internal, quiet, safe. Meanwhile, Rivers Global redirected the capital to smaller community banks across Alabama, Mississippi, and Ohio. Institutions that didn't get PR buzz, but had clean records, strong local ties, and a track record of seeing their customers before judging them. No press release, no announcement, just action. And those who were watching closely, they noticed. But for those still trying to cover it up, the silence was starting to scream. It had been 4 days since the Springfield visit. Danielle hadn't said a word publicly. No tweets, no statements, no op-eds in Forbes, just silence. But that didn't mean the world around her stayed still. Her phone had been vibrating every hour, sometimes every few minutes. Missed calls from journalists, banks, 2 mayors, and at least 1 congressman trying to understand the nature of the situation. And now this, a last-minute call from Morris Alustin, Executive Vice President at Haven Bank's national headquarters in Cincinnati. The man was polished, practiced, a master of corporate cleanup. Danielle answered on the second ring. Miss Rivers, thank you for making time. I didn't. A pause. He let out a light chuckle, the kind meant to break tension without ever addressing it. I understand things didn't go as expected during your visit to our Springfield branch. They went exactly how I expected. He read his throat. I want to personally apologize. That incident does not reflect Haven Bank's values, and we've initiated a full review of Mr. Alluston. She interrupted, her voice calm but cold. Please don't read me the policy sheet. I assure you this isn't scripted. Is that what you told your diversity team before you gave them a new logo? Another silence. I was hoping, he said, we could revisit the terms of your investment initiative. We're prepared to offer favorable guarantees, community integration, even direct influence over branch culture oversight discreetly. Danielle raised an eyebrow. You're offering me hush money dressed as opportunity. He shifted tones. Miss Rivers, let's not forget how powerful a partnership like this could be. We're not talking about one man's mistake. We're talking about building economic bridges between institutions and underserved communities. Now, she laughed. Let me ask you something, Morris. If I had walked into that bank wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of a tailored suit, what do you think would have happened? He didn't answer. She continued, You think your teller would have handed my ID back with 2 hands and a smile? You think he'd have offered me coffee or maybe asked if I needed help understanding the form? Her voice sharpened. Because if he treats the CEO of a $4 billion firm like that, how do you think he treats someone on food stamps trying to open their first checking account? Morris sighed. I can't undo what happened, Miss Rivers, but I can make sure it never happens again. No, you can't, she said flat, because you're trying to patch a leak without fixing the pipe. Then what would you suggest? Danielle sat back. Let the quo head hang for a second. You don't need a new statement. You need a new culture. One that doesn't just train employees on what not to say, but on what they already believe and why. And in the meantime, I'm moving my capital elsewhere. We can keep this out of the press. I'm sure you can. And if we publicly acknowledge it. Danielle didn't hesitate. I still won't come back. He sighed again, slower this time. The game was up. Is there anything we can do to repair the relationship? You could have started by picking up the phone the same day it happened, not after your legal team built a moat. Point taken. One more thing, Morris. Yes. Caleb Warner. Yes. You're not going to fire him. I know that. That's your choice. And you don't believe in second chances. She took a beat. I believe in accountability, and I believe second chances don't mean avoiding the first consequence. She ended the call. No threats, no press, just facts. And facts, when spoken with clarity, carry their own weight. But Danielle knew the weight wasn't hers to carry anymore. That was the difference. Springfield moved on, or tried to. The bank stayed open. The ficus by the window kept dying slowly. New customers came and went, unaware of the deal that could have changed the city. No headlines, no scandal, no front-page stories. But in the right rooms, people noticed the silence. Frankfurt called twice, then stopped. Investors whispered in hallways. Competing firms tried to fill the space Rivers Global left behind, but the tone had shifted. Power had left the room, and no one knew how to talk about it. Danielle, meanwhile, was back in Dallas. She didn't sit on panels, didn't accept interviews. She worked quietly, shifted capital into places that didn't need training to act human, funded rural banks in Jackson, Mississippi, signed microloan deals with the credit union in Canton, Ohio. No cameras, no ribbon cutings, just reallocation because that's what power really looks like. Not always loud, just deliberate. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after the Springfield incident, Danielle got an envelope in the mail. No return address, postmarked Springfield. Inside was a short handwritten letter. The penmanship was rough. Miss Rivers, I heard what happened. I'm a teller at another branch. We weren't told much, but we know the deal's gone. I don't blame you. I just want you to know not all of us are like him. Some of us were watching, some of us learned something. KW. Danielle held the paper for a while. Then she folded it once, slid it into her drawer, not as a keepsake, but as a reminder that even silence can echo, that sometimes the lesson isn't about punishing, It's about waking people up. And the best way to do that? Leave the room. Let them feel the absence. Let them sit with the space you used to fill. Because people learn differently when consequences don't come with press conferences, when correction doesn't come wrapped in shame, but in distance, and when dignity walks out the door on its own 2 feet. It makes everyone else ask themselves one quiet question. What did I just lose? You don't always need to scream to be heard. Sometimes all it takes is walking away. You don't have to convince people to respect you. You don't have to beg for dignity in spaces that were never built to recognize you. Sometimes the strongest move is silence, but make sure your silence speak. Because when people learn that disrespect has a cost, when they learn that behind the face they ignored was a decision-maker with power and memory, they think twice next time. And that's where change begins. Not in loud speeches, but in the quiet realization. We just lost something and we didn't even see it coming. If this story made you feel something, share it. Not for the clicks, not for the algorithm, but because someone out there needs to be reminded that quiet power is still power and dignity that's never up for negotiation. Music,